How is everyone doing today? Behind me is a Toro 1752 zero-turn mower. I think it's 2002, I believe. And we're going to be putting this new belt on it. And let's get to it. So first things first, there's a diagram on a lot of lawnmowers on the deck itself to show you how that belt goes. And here's this one. And that'll help you out if you ever need. That'll help us out on this machine for sure. So what ended up happening, I was cutting the grass and maybe hit a stick or something. This belt was also cracking and going bad. I knew it was going to break at some point, and the belt popped off. It broke, and it stopped cutting. So finally got our belt in from Amazon. I ended up going with a cheap aftermarket $30 belt versus $130 belt from OEM, from Toro or whatever dealer you end up going to. So let's get to it. All right, the first thing we're gonna do is there's a cover on this side, and there's a cover on this side. We're gonna take those two covers off. It's just a few bolts. All right, this looks like a 3/8 for this. These look like they're 3/8. They should come out pretty easy. And there's gonna be another bolt on the back side of this. So 3 bolts on the right side. Right, there we go. And there's one side of our belt off. Now to this side, we're just gonna hit these 2 bolts on this side. This particular mower has this deck wash off attachment. I've never used it before. I don't know how they work. Keep our bolts there. Take this side off. Now we have those covers off, we can blow this out. Alright, that's a lot better. The other thing to note is I dropped the deck all the way down. And that's going to help out with being able to reach under there easily. And the other thing I did, which might not be necessary, but for the sake of me being able to get the camera underneath, is I jacked up the back end of the lawnmower. Obviously make sure you do it safe when you're crawling around underneath it, just so it doesn't fall on you or something. And there we are, the motor pulley. And it's already popped off. If you're in the same situation, it might be the same. Now on this particular mower, there isn't a guide coming down holding the belt on when it's loose, but because this belt doesn't get loose unless it's broken, but if it was a belt that released, had like a tension PTO versus an actual electric PTO, then that would be, there might be something here holding this belt on. So I should note that this belt is broken or loose. So if you were just putting a new belt on this, then you would have to pull on the tensioner to loosen the belt up enough to pop it off. And I'll show you the tensioner right now. This pulley right here is the tensioner. There's a spring on the other side, and this spring right here puts tension on this, and here's your adjustment. So if you needed to adjust this, this is where you would make your adjustment if it wasn't tight enough. And this spring hooks onto that pulley in there. There's a little stud that pops up, and that sits on there. So as of right now, everything's loose, so we're going to pop this belt off. As you can see, this belt had its last days. If your belt starts to get cracks in it, like these, it's probably about time to think about changing it. You know, I saw that the belt was in that condition early this season. I knew it was time to change it, but I was just going to run her until she ran out, and it ran out. Alright, let's get this new belt on. So, I'm going to start in the back Actually, I'm going to start in the front and push a loop to the back. Alright, so we got it back there. Now this is where we're going to follow our guide and start running it along our tensioner. Just a general rule of thumb, if it's a V pulley, your belt's going to sit in it, the inside of the belt's going to fit in it. If it's a flat pulley, generally the outside flat part of the belt's going to be sitting on it. And that also kind of helps guide you through it too. And again, I'm using my diagram right here to make sure I'm correct on this. This is gonna go, there's a plate under here, and this is gonna go through that plate and come up around. So we're gonna get that on there. More than likely during this initial fitting, you're gonna be bumping the belt off the pulley when you pull it somewhere else, and that's exactly what happened here. So let's see if we can get it back on. When I adjusted that, this came off. Now this is going to get tight at this point. And actually our other pulley came off, so it should get tight after this point right now. So let's go. So we have our tension pulley right here, and our belt is here. I'm just going to kind of twist it. And I was kind of worried about this. You know what? We ain't right. We ain't right. That's the problem here. So we want this to come over here, and then, so there we are. All right, now we're tight. That's tight. All right, so what I'm going to do here is grab a hold of that while we pull this. Get this started here. We're going to twist this. Watch your fingers, of course. And there we are. Now it's on there. The reason it popped off was because I was turning it the opposite way, and the belt was able to pop up over there. Also, the deck's all the way down at the lowest level. I would never cut this low, and that's why the angle of that pulley to the engine PTO pulley is a little bit off. I blew one of my bolts off, and I lost one. So that's going to be a search. But as of right now, I don't need it. I'm just going to put 2 bolts on this side and be done. Also, while you're down here, it's a good idea to grease all your grease fittings up, get your spindles greased up. Let's get the covers back on and test this thing out. Alright, so to close that up, the easiest way to get the belt on is to start it on that last pulley, on one of your outside pulleys, and twist it onto it, right? Watch your fingers, make sure you're not hurting anything. With your PTO, disengage, that back pulley should turn freely on its own, so you should be able to turn that whole system without even turning the motor at all. Obviously, it's always a good idea to keep your key off to make sure that the mower is not going to start when you're working on anything like that. So, and it's also a good idea to pull your spark plug wire, and then you're for sure not going to start up. Alright, let's give this thing a test run and see if we can, 1, find that bolt somewhere, and 2, and 2, see if this thing actually works. Alright, and that's all there is to it. The mower is fixed for now. I'm going to be putting new blades on it, doing an oil change, greasing everything up. I also have a small slow leak in a tire, so I think it's good video to figure out how to stop that from happening, or to eliminate that from happening. And as always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.